Live with the community. This is the Microsoft 365 and Power Platform Development Biweekly Call. My name is David Warner with Microsoft, and I will be your host. Today is July 7th. Wow, half the year has gone by. Where has it gone? No doubt we are all excited for the future of our community, though. Today we're going to talk a little bit about PnP Framework, PowerShell, Yo Teams, MGT, independent publisher connectors. We're going to see the latest on a number of samples, Power Platform, script samples, Microsoft Teams. We're going to go to our favorite time, which is together mode, and then we're going to see three all-stars of the day. Clement Oliver is going to show us the independent publisher connector for MailJet. Pankaj Surti is going to show us how Microsoft Graph Sites.Selected work for granular permissions in SharePoint Online. And guess who's back? Chris Kent, list formatting, warrior horses return. So we look forward to all of our amazing presenters today. But first, let's chat a little bit about how you can get involved in the community. There are a plethora of opportunities to participate in this community, and we would love to see you participate in any and all ways in which you would like to participate. One of those is actually requesting a demo spot on this call, as you see our amazing presenters will do today. In fact, we have two first-time presenters today, so we're going to show them a ton of gratitude and love. You can also contribute on GitHub, and you can provide feedback. We love to see all the feedback from the community, whether it's a good or something you'd like to see improved. We want to make sure it's the best community possible for you to enjoy. Now, there are a ton of opportunities for you to get involved. We've got videos aplenty. We've got open source projects that span the PnP, SharePoint, Office Dev, Microsoft Graph, things like CLI for Microsoft 365, PnP.js. We've got a ton of sample galleries in which we'll talk about today, spanning SPFX, Power Platform, list formatting. No lack of samples for you to utilize and learn from. But you do not need to worry about remembering all of these URLs, but only one, in fact, and that is aka.ms/m365/community, and that will give you access to all of these resources and more. But this is not all. We have a lot of community calls for you to take advantage of. First is the Microsoft 365 Platform Weekly Call. This occurs on Tuesdays, and what makes this special is all of the presenters are from within Microsoft. So that means that you're going to be able to get it directly from the mothership, if you will. You're going to get it directly from those product managers that are working directly with the products. So don't hesitate to join that. You can get the link at aka.ms/m365-dev-call. It is on a summer break until the end of August. So when you download that ICS, it will show up on your calendar. Just be aware that there's not going to be a call on those Tuesdays until the beginning of September. There's also adaptive cards, Microsoft Identity Platform, Office add-ins, monthly Power Platform community call, and then, of course, these two bi-weekly calls, the first of which you're in right now, Microsoft 365 and Power Platform Development, and the second, Viva Connections and SharePoint Framework. They are sibling calls, if you will, and they occur bi-weekly. So next week is that Viva Connections and SharePoint Framework call. Now, you're going to see a number of projects and initiatives within the ecosystem of our community today. Some and all are welcome for you to contribute to, but you may feel a little intimidated, not quite sure where to start. How do you do something like a GitHub pull request? What is that magic word? Well, Sharing is Caring is a program here that's going to provide you hands-on guidance on how you can get more involved and how you can improve your craft within the community. That may be submitting a sample. It may be speaking on one of these community calls. It may be writing a blog. In fact, if you're looking to do more writing, we've got a Writing for the Web session starting next week. It's the first of its kind. It's going to be led by Emily Mancini, Hugo Bernier. It is still available for you to sign up. It is on Monday of next week. Don't hesitate to do that. This is going to be a really fantastic session that is a lot of fun. If I know Emily and Hugo, you're going to laugh and learn all at the same time, and who doesn't like to do that? So don't hesitate. We've also got our Power Platform samples contributor coming up with some really cool examples of how you can access GitHub and submit your samples directly using nothing more than a browser, which is really mind-boggling. Don't have to download and install anything. So don't hesitate to join. They're all available for you to register for today. Once you do contribute to this community, we want to celebrate all the amazing work that you're doing, and we're going to do that through our recognition program. Now, this is a program that provides official recognition, accredited recognition. We are powered by Credly, which means that those same badges that you get when you pass a certification for Microsoft, these badges are identical to that. They will sit right next to it. You can associate them to your LinkedIn, put them on Twitter. You can share them with mom, put them on the fridge, anything that you want. You can put them on your blog. You can show them to clients and your management to show that you're making a difference. So we do need you to opt in. It's absolutely free. We cover the cost, aka.ms/M365PnP-recognition, and we'll tie your contributions back to the Credly account that you have, given the information that you provide us, and we'll get those awarded to you. So be on the lookout. We've been processing them the last few days. Some have gone out. Even more are scheduled to go out. So keep those eyes on your email. And if you did make a contribution, you don't get one, just reach out to myself or Hugo Bernier. We can absolutely investigate. Sometimes those emails get put into spam. All right, next up is PnP .NET Libraries, and for that, we'll turn over to Paolo.
Thank you, David. Yes, and we are going to talk about the PnP .NET Libraries, specifically the PnP Framework and the PnP Core SDK. As you can see on this slide, the numbers are really becoming huge for these libraries. We have 615,000 downloads for PnP Framework and 820,000 downloads for PnP Core SDK. And if you think that the previous library, PnP Sites Core, did something like 1.2 million downloads in 6 years, and we already did these numbers in a bit more than 1 year, they are really skyrocketing. So we released version 1.10 of PnP Framework a few days ago with improvements, merge of PRs and fixes, as well as we are working on 1.11, which will come out after the summer break. We also introduced version 1.7 of PnP Core SDK with a lot of new improvements. And again, we are working on 1.8, which will come out after summer break again. If there is anything that is missing, in your opinion, in these libraries, please let us know. Go to GitHub and submit a request for something that you really need. And we will evaluate your request and try to do our best to support you and the whole community. And I think that's all for me. Thank you. Back to you, David.
Awesome. Thank you, Paolo. Next up is PnP PowerShell. There's version 1.11 has been released, but we're on a summer break. A lot of updates and improvements, 2.4 million downloads and 100 million. 100 million. I feel like I need to talk like Dr. Evil. 100 million commandlets executed per day. How amazing is that? Go check out 1.11. There's minor documentation fixes and updates. Would love to hear your thoughts on this update and release. Please provide your feedback. Any and all feedback is welcome, so please don't hesitate. Next up is Yo Teams. Yo Teams is the way to generate a Teams apps using SPFX. 4.0 has been released, including a ton of features added to the 1.13 manifest, along with a number of other benefits and improvements. You can access all of this at aka.ms/Yo Teams. Next up is Microsoft Graph Toolkit. MGT, otherwise known as, you can get the new MGT samples repository. Now, this is an awesome repository that's first and new of its kind for MGT, where you can integrate directly into MGT with all of these samples. So please don't hesitate to take a look. You can learn more at aka.ms/MGT/samples. Let's move over to independent publisher connectors with Natalie.
Hi, everyone. Hope you're all having a great day so far. So a couple of exciting announcements. We have now reached 50 awesome independent publishers in our community. So super thankful for that. It's an incredible milestone to have all these people who've built incredible connectors. We also have 147 in total independent publisher connectors, and we're coming into our first year anniversary of this program. So it's incredible to see, again, how many contributions that we have. So we're really, really grateful for that, because it's really expanded the Power Platform significantly. We also have 15 new connectors. I've listed 5 here for this week. We have Easy Ship, we have Dad Jokes IO and Carbon Footprint, and Give Butter, all by Troy Taylor. We also have 1 additional connector by Woong, DHL Shipment Tracking, and 1 update to an existing connector. Mitanshu has updated the regex matching. So next time around, you'll see me put the rest of the new connectors in there as well. And in terms of how you can help, you can become a contributor. You can join our community and build 1 or more connectors. Both Troy and Woong have built many connectors themselves, so you can totally join us. Happy to help on any step of the way. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Natalie, and thank you all of our amazing independent publishers. 50, that's fantastic. Congratulations. All right, let's talk about script samples. Now, this is a repository that is so unique and awesome because it has such a wide spectrum of use. You can use these scripts across a number of the technologies, PowerShell, CLI for Microsoft 365, and others. We've got new scenarios here, updated scenarios. We won't list out each one of them, but thank you for everyone that's contributed. Chandani, Russell, JC, Nandeep, Milan, Rashmi, and Jiten. Thank you for all the good work that you're doing. Don't hesitate to check this one out. It's so many valuable things, even if it's a small little improvement that's going to help the workflow of your day. You can learn more at aka.ms/script samples. And let's turn over to Bob German for Microsoft Teams samples.
Unfortunately, we don't have any new samples this week, but I'll just put in the plug. Teams is not only what we're using right now to collaborate, but it is a development platform. If you want to learn more, check out the Teams samples. We have a whole bunch of them already. And if you've worked on a Teams application, please consider submitting it, or submitting like the hard parts or something that's more generic and reusable at aka.ms/teams-samples. And back to you. Thanks, Dave.
Awesome. Thank you, Bob. Excellent work on everything there that is already there, but don't hesitate to add more, or reach out if you have questions and you're not quite sure, you got an idea or something. We would love to see what you're cooking up. And last but not least is our Power Platform samples. So we've got a few samples here that we wanted to call out that are still being processed, and we'll get those pull requests approved, but we wanted to really show our appreciation for those that were submitted. Luis Fries, one of our favorite community contributors, has created an accessibility color checker, a Power app that is really, really cool. Of course, always great to see any amount of love for our accessibility community as well. Looking to make sure that we're inclusive there. Within Power Automate, we've got set SharePoint item level permissions by Raman Amandi. So definitely don't hesitate to go take a look at these. You can learn more at aka.ms/Power Platform samples. And we've got coming up July 20th, a Power Platform Contributors Sharing is Caring session. So that is actually right after about an hour after the monthly call, the monthly Power Platform Contributors call on the 20th, which is a Wednesday. So get your Power Platform goodness in that day. Sign up for the community call, and then sign up for the Sharing is Caring session, and we'll collaborate together. With that, it's optional picture time. So today is your opportunity to share your camera. I see them all turning on. You all look fantastic. Vesta's going to take over the screen share and give us an opportunity.
We'll wait for 20 seconds, 30 seconds. Let's wait for the CS to fill in. I will put my camera on as well. Not yet, not yet. Wait for it, wait for it. We still have one more row to fill in. Let's see if we can actually get that one. Oh, I can see Todd on a call as well. Good to have you back from your world tourney. And I guess we'll start gradually the recording. We aren't getting the first row. There we go. Let's do some hand waving, everybody. Thank you for joining once again on the call. Absolutely brilliant to have you on this community, and we'll grab a GIF animation out of this and share it as the part of the blog post summary on this call. Thank you, everybody. Really, really great. Awesome. Brilliant. Excellent. Back to you, David.
Excellent. Thank you, Vesta. All right. Let's get back to our amazing all-stars of the day. So we're going to begin with Clement Oliver, who's going to cover independent publisher connectors, the MailJet connector. Clement, take it away.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. Let me just open the quick slide I have for you, just to introduce myself to everybody. So,
yep, loaded. Take it away.
All right. So my name is Clément Olivier. I'm working for a French company called Javista, which is working around the dynamic CRM on around the Power Platform since 15 years now. 2 days ago, I was renewed as MVP around the business apps, so I'm so happy around that, about that. I'm lucky to be part of the Fast Track's recognized solution architect around the Power Apps. And yeah, today I will present you the MailJet custom connector I built a few months ago, which is an email gunner, basically. And what I will do is a quick presentation about the API, what we can do with the API and what we can do with a custom connector. And then I will do a quick demo using a Canvas apps. Basically, This is MailJet. So you might know the MailJet, which is quite similar to Mailgun, for example. Basically, historically, it's a French company, and they both by Sync, a huge company last year in 2021. MailJet and Mailgun, two tools to send emails, to do email marketing, basically. And this is allow you not only to send email, but also to grab stats, to create contact lists, check if every mail was sent properly, is there any bounce click, open of the mail, and etc. So a lot of stats around each email which is sent. And how it's working as a custom connector, basically, how do you authenticate to the MailJet API? It's a simple, if I go to the developer part of the website for MailJet, it says simply that it's an API key combo with an API key and a secret. You can grab directly from your account on MailJet, for example, as here. If you are familiar to MailJet or not, you just have to create an account. It's free. You can send up to 6,000 emails per month freely, if my memory is correct. And you just have to go to the top right menu in account settings. You can access the API key management, and you have by default a master main key. And you can divide your different projects by subkeys to split the different usage of the keys and the amount of email available, so which is quite interesting. And then if I go back quickly around the API definition, as you can see, there is an email API available and an SMS one. I focused on the email one in the first place. Maybe later on, the SMS custom connector will come up, or someone can contribute to the existing connector, of course. And if I focus to the email, which is the one I created, as you can see, we have a bunch of actions around different objects handled by MailJet. So I didn't created all those actions within the custom connector. Only a few of them, which are, let's say, the core actions to create and use properly the API. If I go to the docs around the connector I built, you can see that few actions, several actions, in fact, are available, and each actions have their input and output parameters, of course. But that's not the most interesting part. Let me show you. Be nice with me. It's a quick Canvas apps I've built. It's not for a client or something. It's not a sexy Canvas apps as you may see now. So it's a really quick one, just to show you that in that Canvas apps basically took me like 10 minutes to build. So it's working fine. I could build something more nicer from the UX perspective, basically, but it's just to show you that in 10 minutes I've used, let's say, half of the actions available in the API, so which is quite quick and fast to use. Basically, here I can see all my contacts registered in my MailJet account. If I click on the quick arrow here, I can see that for each account, what are the stats about that account based on days. You can see that we have a bunch of information, which is quite interesting to know if that particular contact interact with the email I'm sending from the marketing team, for example. If I want to go deeper in the details, I can go here and I can grab the emails I've sent today. Sorry, some technical information are displayed. I didn't get time to grab let's say, the subject of the email, for example. But here, for example, I can find quick info around that email in particular. So if you want to go deeper and create a dashboard, Power BI dashboards and so on, it could be the way to go. And I think in few hours, you can have a great dashboard around that custom connector. And what I want to show you live, because the Canvas apps was already open, so it might seem that I already planned everything and everything is loaded, so it's not a live demo. So let me create a new contact. For example, let's call it Martin Dupont, which is Dupont. Sorry, it's the last name, and let's call it martin@dupont.com. And let's create that contact, so I can explain that it will be excluded by default from the different campaigns I will be able to create later on or not. And if I submit here, you can see that directly the API is grabbing automatically the new Martin Dupont from the API. And what is interesting here is not it's partially the creation of new contacts, of course, to target the different people you want to send the email. But the most interesting part here is the email itself. So I pre-filled the form, so it's quicker. So I can define from which account I'm sending the email, of course, the target email person, which can be multiple people, and a subject and a content. Let's say that it's the minimum information you can use to send an email. You can add attachments if you want. You can link an email to a campaign. You can go further than what I'm showing you. But here, let's just click on submit. And if everything is fine, I should receive my email quickly. I will show you it in few seconds, just to show you the live effect of the demo. Or it's a demo effect and I don't receive it. I'm not receiving the email. Yeah, basic demo effect. I tried it just before and it was working, of course. But the idea here was I created an email. Normally, as you can see, this is a MailJet dashboard, which show you the different emails or exchanges between your MailJet account and the emails you sent. And as you can see, yesterday or even today at 1 p.m., it was working fine. And the idea was really to show you that in 10 minutes, you can create a quick canvas. It could be done via Automate, of course. The connector is working for both. And creating custom connectors is really nice to extend what you can do with the basic connectors and even the 150 connectors available today, independent custom connectors. So we can go really further the limits we may know years ago today. And I want to say that my demo is finished since the email was not received. But yeah, basically I know why. If you allow me 1 minute, I will just change this. I guess my Javista email was not approved automatically. And here we go. This time it worked. So you can see that I do have my email, and if I click on the links and extra, the different stats will go back to the API, and I can see it either from the dashboard of MailJet or grab it directly from the custom connector I showed you just before.
Awesome, Clement. This is really, really cool stuff. Love how you're able to implement, as you said, these connectors and with such simplicity, connect them into an app and make something happen right away, like you said, in under 10 minutes. And that's really fantastic. So thank you for sharing that. Very well done. And we appreciate it. We look forward to your next demo.
Thank you.
All right, next up is Pankaj for how Microsoft Graph Sites.Selected work for granular permissions in SharePoint Online. Take it away.
Yep, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yep, sounds great. I see the slides as well.
Okay, great. So yes, I just shortened the title and you already said it. So I'm going to focus mainly on the Site.Selected, MS Graph Site.Selected permission. And that is what I'm going to talk about. Just a little bit about me. I work as a senior consultant in modern work domain in Microsoft. And my expertise is with design, architect, development, and Azure. And I'm a big fan of this community. I attend this community many times, and I have a lot of my fans here. I'm a big fan of a few of the presenters here. So what is access control system? So basically, what this agenda is about: accessing SharePoint content or SharePoint list or libraries using headless account. What we have used in past and what my customer has used in past is access control system, which is retired. And I will point to the Vesa's blog post as well. The retirement was in 2018. And the better way to do this is using the Site.Selected MS Graph permission. Prior to Site.Selected, we used to give full permission, which was not a good thing to have have, because then that particular app has access to everything, but Site.Selected allows you to do the granularity. When I did that, I explained my customer about the Site.Selected, how it works. They said it's a lot of work for the admins. So I have proposed to them some proof of concept on automating and governing this as using the tracker, this particular Site.Selected, and that is what I'm going to show. So these are my 3 points, and I'll demo it. And if you are not aware, this is a slide here. This group is a SharePoint group. We used to do app reg new, and then you select the client ID and client secret, and then you provide the access to site or web or a list using app INV. And there is a special XML file. I'm not going to get into details of that, but this is retired. It is working as if now it is working, and it will work. There is no thing mentioned that it will not work for now, but the better or recommended approach is using the Site.Selected. So what was my customer need was that they needed a site, around 200 sites access using client ID and client secret, which would have made things worse because they would have to create one-on-one ACS app and client secret for entire all these site collections. And that is not a good thing to do. So the better approach would be to use the Site.Selected. And what Site.Selected does is it allows application to access subset of sites and site collection without signed in user. As I said, it's without any logged in user. So that is what is required. And in the Graph API call, you have the API, REST API as shown in the screen right now. But what I have used is I have used the PnP PowerShell commands, and that in turn call the similar REST API, which is shown here. And it is showing only the CRUD operation, but only the create operation, but there is read and write operations as well, and list operations. So that is get and put, right? So that all this thing is already coded in the PnP PowerShell. So I've used that to show them how to use this particular permission. So to use this permission, you will need 2 Azure AD app. One Azure AD app will be sites.fullcontrol.all. And this particular Azure AD app will be only allowed by the admins to provide the granular permission using the second app. So there will be 2 apps. The client who are going to write program against will be using the second Azure AD app. And that Azure AD app will be either allowed one or many site collection, and it can be read or write. So there are the 2 grant permission you can provide. And my demo will not be any UI or anything, just the PowerShell commands. In that PowerShell command, what I have to do is using the Connect PnP Online, using the first Azure AD app, which is the admin app, I would connect, and then after that, I would create grant PnP Azure AD app permission, app site permission call, and that will allow me to add a write or a read permission for a site which is applied. So I would add, if it is 200 sites, I would run 200 times grant permission for write, and that particular Azure AD app will have only 200 sites access, not entire tenant. That's the beauty of this particular permission. Now, I am going to share what I have here is on my demo tenant, I already have Azure AD app, which is the first app I talked about called admin app. And this admin app has this permission, as I said in the slide deck, it has an sites.fullcontrol all. So this is required, and this particular app will be only accessible by admins who will be providing access using the sites for the Site.Selected. And I've used the best practices way. Basically, I've created a certificate rather than a client secret. It was just a test, but I'm using the certificate and using certificate, I will get an access token. And then after getting the access token, I will add a permission for a site for this particular tenant or a test site to read list or write into the library. And then the second app which I have, thank you. Second app I have is the app, which is the app the client will use, the programmer will use, or developer will use. You do not want to share with them the admin app, but you share them the client app. And that client app, as I said in the slide deck, will have API permission for Site.Selected. I have provided for both SharePoint as well as Graph, because sometimes PnP uses SharePoint API, sometimes it uses Graph API. So I just gave them both of them, and this is what I would add. Now, let's assume that this is the app which we want to use to connect first. I still have time for finishing my demo. So I am going to connect to this app, which basically gave me the connection, right? And then I'm going to say, hey, get me all the list of this app. And as you can see, this particular app ID, having this app ID and secret or your secret or a PFX file doesn't give you automatically permission to that particular app, or you cannot just immediately access that particular site. Admin has to do one more extra step, and that is where I am here on the admin script. In the admin script, I'm connecting using the admin app ID, and obviously I have password, and which is hidden somewhere down on the right side. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to run this and connect to the admin app. Okay. After connecting to admin app, I have some of the PowerShell commands, PnP PowerShell commands, which is, I just did the GCN on it. And those GCN is showing me get, grant, revoke, and set. Well, obviously, grant is post call, get is the list call, and revoke is the delete call, and the set is the put call or update call in the MS Graph point of view. If you could see the documentation, that's what behind the scene this particular PnP PowerShell commands does. So what I'm going to do here, I just did the connection to the admin ID app, and then I'm going to say, okay, then I'm going to initialize some client variable. I did not do so. So let me initialize that. And then I will say, hey, get me all the permission for the site called test1 and for this particular client app ID. And as you can see here, I have none. I have not granted anything yet. So I'm going to say, hey, grant this permission. And when it is granting the permission, it is giving the permission for the read, as you can see here. So now if I go back to my client demo, and I will connect to client again, and just because the context has switched on me. So now I connected. So what happened here is I connected the client ID, and now I will say, hey, get me all the list within that particular site collection. And I do get that. But let's try adding something into it. And when I try to add it, the granular permission is such that I just said, hey, it's only read permission. This is access denied. So if your customer or if your developers want that write permission, what you would do is, again, I have to do this thing for the demo purpose. I have to connect to the PnP Online, connect PnP Online because my context switched, and I probably have the same variables. I just apply anyway, and I will say get this permission. And when I get this permission, I get this permission object, as you can see here. This is the permission object. It has a role which is not showing. I think it's a bug in the PnP, or I don't know where it is, but maybe it is in Graph. But this is the app which is having an access. Now, instead of granting the permission as a read, what I'm going to say, hey, now make change to from read to write. So that's what I'm going to run. And when I run that, I do get that object again, and role is showing me as a write. Once that is done, what I can do, I can go to demo script again, and I say connect PnP Online, and let's see my get call works. Get will work because it's just a write now. It is, and now we will try to write something into the list. And when I write to the list, and a list is called test1, and the site is also called test1, so I should have something in the list. So that is what I just added 7.7. Yesterday I was testing something. So that is that. Now, for some reason you want to have that particular permission taken away. The last thing is I would do what I would do is just go into the admin app again and then run this thing again. And I will say, get me the permission. I got the permission object. Then I will say, revoke this permission. So having now app ID and app secret for the client, for the developer, this is revoking the permission, right? So now we are back to square one when we started this. But wait a minute. So after all this demonstration, admins were saying that is too much work for them. If they want to do 2,000 sites, what happens then? So that's where I have written the blog post, and you should be able to see my blog post. In the blog post, I just demonstrated what I was just demonstrating about all the demo scripts. It is right here. And then my blog post 2 is where I have defined architecture where you have a tracker. The tracker is tracking about all your apps and what kind of sites you are giving permission to. There is a logic app, which is always listening to this particular tracker app. Once that particular logic app defines what this particular user wants to do, whether you want to give a read or write access or grant or revoke, and accordingly, Azure function will do the job for you for that particular admin, and they can do so. So now let's do the same thing what I did with that. So I'm going to provide this particular list as an item saying here, let me go and click the list site name. So site URL. So I will provide the site URL and then app ID. And this particular app ID is basically a lookup list, and I'm providing an app ID. And I'm saying I want to provide a read access. Let's provide the write access right away. And I want to grant first time. And what happens here is behind the scene, the logic app is working here, and logic app is going to pick it up. Every 1 minute, this logic app is working, and it will pick it up in a minute. And there is a Azure function behind the scene, and I will share the code. And the code is also shared on my blog post. If you go to my blog post, it is there. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to click on this logs. So you will see the logs, what is happening here. And it should be running now in a minute. It takes 30 seconds or so. So, okay, come on. Okay, it should be, there it is. So it started running. What it did, it item added or item modify event, it picked up. And then what it does is it formulates the JSON input information for the Azure function. What Azure function does, and this is the similar, there it is. Okay, there it is. So this is the JSON object it creates, whether you want to revoke or whether you want to write or read operation, and which site URL and what is the client ID. That is passed, and that is passed through that particular list. And if I go to here, as you can see, this particular Azure function ran when I was sharing other screen, and it did the thing which I did show you in the PowerShell ISE. So now we revoked that permission, if you remember, right? So what I did, I revoked the permission. Now let's see whether it has the right permission or not. So hopefully I'll go to demo client, and then I'll connect to the client, right? I connect to the client, and then I say, hey, let me see. So I'm back again, and I am able to add this. So now what point I'm trying to make here is, now if I want to have more sites or more sites for this particular app ID, I can keep on adding that without writing this function. And on top of that, if I want to say revoke a permission for a particular site for this particular app, all they have to do is click on it and just say revoke. And the function behind the scene, the function will revoke it, as well as as well as it will revoke and it will delete an entry from here. So for example, if I had, let's say, 200 sites here, and I just wanted to remove one site and revoke that permission for that particular site, I can do so. And that will be done in a minute. So let me refresh this screen again. Let's go to run history again and refresh. So there is a timer for 1 minute, and it just item modified event comes in and it changes it. So let me, while that is doing, I am going to just walk through the function logic app here, which is very simple. I'm just checking whether grant or revoke I need to do, or I need to do read or write. Accordingly, I will formulate a JSON object, right? So I'm just doing that. I'm checking. And after checking that, in the body function, I create an action, whether it is a grant or revoke. The client app ID is already passed to me in the item itself. Display name of the app is passed to me, and then read or write is passed to me, and site URL is also passed to me. And I have 1 more minute, I think, and I think that particular thing should be revoked now. So if I go back here and here, so as you can see, this permission is now revoked. So if I go back to the function app and now I do click on it, and then I say, get me the list, it will say 403. So that is what revoked. And the engine, just last point, engine is very simple, very simple. It just does the if condition if it's just the path of revoke and grant. And if it is already granted, if it is read, then do the write. If user has asked for write and things like that. So it's very simple code, but that's pretty much it from my side. Back to you, David.
Awesome. Thank you, Pankaj. That's really, really innovative the way you've set that up. And there's a few questions in the chat, so just in the interest of time, I'll let you answer that there. But thank you for walking us through that. Very valuable, and we put the link to your blog post in the chat as well. Well, next is Chris Kent, and everybody's what was that? Yeah, I'm excited too. So Chris, take it away.
All right. Well, sweet. So if I can share my screen here. You guys tell me when you see my beautiful face.
I see your face, and it is beautiful.
Good. All right, that's me. I'm Chris, and I'm still an MVP. Wow. All right, let's go back and take a look at a few things, shall we? So today, what we're going to talk about is the list formatting repo itself today. So if you're not familiar, we've got a beautiful list formatting repo, and the repo here we've had for I guess it's been 3 or 4 years at this point. It's extremely popular. Used all the time. One of the issues we've had, though, is inconsistency across samples. So, we've got a ton of samples, got about 250, I think, at this point, across column, view, and form samples, right? And if you come here, we've got this way where you can come in here, you click on column samples, right? These are organized by the column type and then some more details on them. And this is an okay way to go, right? You can click on, say, this one by Andre, right? And this is cool, right? It's got a README. You can see it's got view requirements on how to set it all up and some more details along with all the files here. And that's one way to do it, right? But you go back and you're like, wait, which one was I on? And so on. So it can be difficult to kind of browse this list. And we're aware of that, but it's also, one of the best ways to kind of maintain samples and go forward here. So one of the things we've done is we've updated the documentation all over the place. And we have this idea of a documentation site, which is linked here from the front, right? This PnP github.io/list formatting. And again, I'm sure David will paste that link in there. And in the past, we've set that up. We've had some interesting listings, right? So we had this idea of grouping those columns by various things like column type or operator, and all that's very helpful. We put that up here. And if you haven't had a chance to look at this, feel free. It's great. But we had a lot of issues over the past, year, at least, where a few things have disappeared, right? Here's all of our column samples. You could tell that's a problem, right? We'd probably want a few listed there. And then we had some of our documentation just said coming soon. So I've gone through and done a pretty massive update to these things. And if we go to the site now, we should see that we have our column samples list here, right? So all of those are updated and those are accurate. So it has every sample that's available along with form samples. And our groupings have changed a little bit, right? So we still have, the same groupings we had before, but now they are in collapsible sections. So if you're looking to, say, do a column format and you're like, yeah, I've got this image column, right? Is there any samples for that? You click on that and you say, oh yeah, we have one sample, right? It's the image lightbox, and then you can click on that and it'll take you directly to that sample. So that's one way to do that. But you can also hover it over to get some more details and so on. But we have some additional groupings here, which I think will be very helpful for you. So we have the column type, which is very helpful for column formatting. We also have by operator. So if you're looking to see how a specific operator works, right? Maybe it's a brand new one, like say, the get user image, right? So you click on that and you can see, how do I use this thing? Well, there's 14 samples that use get user image, right? So you can go to any of these and you can find all of the samples that use these operators. So any of the operators besides the basic ones like, basic math and comparison, because most samples use those, are listed here. So a great way to learn and see specific examples of how those are done. We also have the placeholder tokens. So these are the kind of the magic strings here that are used, right? So you want to see where we're using some of the new localization. We've got the one sample right now, but we've got a bunch of samples for, say, row index and so on. So you can check all of those out. And of course, we can keep going here. We've got action. You can see we actually don't have a sample that shows this action just yet, which means that this, when you see this little icon, that is a clue that maybe contributing is something you want to do, right? So we could use a sample on open context menu. So you can see that. So this is a great way to find out, like, hey, where are there not enough samples, or where are there no samples in these? So that's a great way to kind of find that. So if you're looking to contribute, this is also helpful for you. We could expand or collapse all of those as well. Wow, wow, wow. And then we've got categories. These are pseudo made up. It's just another way to kind of look at these. All of these can be edited. I'll show you how you can submit suggestions and changes to these as well. I'm going to skip the class for now. We also have feature. So this is a new one. So this just calls out very specific kind of feature types. So if you're looking to see who has, created samples for each of these, you can see those as well. And then, of course, our authors here are all here. So if you'd like to see, maybe you liked Andres, some of his recent demos, right? So you want to see all the samples that Andres put together, right? You can see all those. Or, you want to come down here, you really like Tetsuya's style, right? So Tetsuya does a lot of beautiful samples. He's got 50 samples, they're all beautiful. You can check them all out here across view and column formatting. You can see this says column or view here. You find out the details on those. And then, of course, we have a few, there's not a ton, but that work in SharePoint 2019. We've called those out specifically and how to use those. And then finally, this is a big area for us, is by class. So what I've gone through and done is I've taken every possible class that is available to you to use inside list formatting, and I've called those out. So we can go to, say, the MSBG color classes. You got a few details on them. They're all listed here, including the ones that are not used in samples. So this is a great way to see what classes are even available to you, right? So if you're just looking for a class, you may be looking for a specific sample to see how that's going. We're not listing out everything the sample does. We do give a few hints, right? You can see the color over here, for instance, on these BG colors is the accurate color. But we're not showing you a lot of the details, right? Which for most of these are fine, right? It's just the background color. There's not a whole lot to it. But you can see there's a lot of classes you may not even been aware of, right? That may help you as well, right? So we've got a lot of these SP row or SP card classes that are a little more generic. We also have several animation style classes that can be used. In fact, there are a few samples that use them, right? So you can see how those happen. And so check all that out. Again, a great way to get that class listing, which I found has been very, very hard to find without just inspecting the page, which is a mess all on its own. So check these out. That's a great way to do that. Also updated the contribution docs, right? So in the past, we had no information at all. So Louise went through and she added a lot of really great information in here. And I've gone through and just kind of updated that as well to give them more details about how we do our issues and things with this particular repo. So if you're looking to contribute, this is the place to start. All right, so all that. Now I mentioned the idea that you would be able to specify, this stuff and talk about where does all this information come from, right? And is this information in the new sample browser? Yes, it is. So if you wanted to use the new sample browser from Microsoft, right, kind of the all-inclusive samples, all of our samples have been updated Several were kind of missing from there. All of those have been cleaned and added, and those should all be ready to go as long as the sample browser is working correctly, right? So again, lots of different ways to find these samples. We're trying to make it as easy as possible to find exactly what you need, because a lot of these samples you can just take and go, right? You don't need to even tweak anything. They just work. You've got a column type. You've got something you're specifically looking for. You just grab the sample, copy it, paste it in, you're good to go. Or you want to tweak it. But that's one use case. The other use case is these people that are trying to learn, right? Or trying to contribute back. And that's where these groupings really, really come in handy. Oh, and one last thing, dark mode. Oh, yeah, for no reason at all. All right, so let's take a look at what, how does this work? All right, so behind the scenes in every sample, there is a sample.json file. And in this sample.json file, this is what describes everything that we use to sort everything out. But it's also what's used by that sample browser. So when you submit a sample, if you don't include a sample.json, we will add one for you. So every sample has one of these. And if you see one of these, that's why they're in this assets folder, because it's also JSON, and that can be a little confusing. You don't need these at all for doing the actual sample. The only thing you need is the format itself, right? That's it. But to describe this and everything else, it all goes in the sample.json. And here you can see we have this idea of our categories, our tokens, and so on. And how you set all this up is there is a tool that I've written called Farrier. It is available to you. In fact, let me pull up that. Where the heck? I have way too many windows. There we go. So over in our community tooling repo, so PnP community tooling, this may not be a repo you're very familiar with because there's really just a couple of tools in there. But you can see we have this GitHub batch issue updater, but we also have, as of 35 minutes ago, the Farrier tool. Now, there's not really documentation in here yet. That is coming, but you can check this out. You can run this as needed and see how that works. And what it does is it goes through and validates your samples, right? So it has a few different things. So we can validate samples. Now, it uses configuration files to validate those samples. In this case, I've set it up for list formatting, but this can be set up for it doesn't have to be even GitHub, right? So this is just validating things within the file system. So you can see here for sample validation, the idea of tokens and so on has all been written here, but you can see where we're suggesting categories. This is the analyze function. Let's collapse that down. But you have this idea of validating the sample, right? And we make sure all the files exist, everything is named correctly. All of the contents inside the README exist and everything is there. So there are, I forget how many, 500 plus rules that we're running against every sample in this repo. And you could create all of your own rules for whatever files you have. And the way this works is, say I've got, I have a sample, I've already set it up to look at one. In the debug string, right, it's going to look at that comment count sample, which has already been cleaned. So it comes out clean here. But if we were to go in there to our repo, all right, so we're in our comment count, and let's say we go to the README and maybe I fat finger the view requirements section, right? Or something like that. And I just save that. And if I run this again, we'll see that it should catch that for us and flag it and say, yeah, you need a view requirements section, right? And it's going to do that for almost everything in these samples. So it should, the whole goal here is not to scare you, right? We're going to run this behind the scenes. If you want to run this, you certainly can, and it will help you identify things. If you don't, we'll run it and help clean your sample as well. So this is more just an FYI for you. So lots of fun, but that would fix that. It'll also suggest things for us, right? So if we were to, let's fix that, and let's go into our JSON and let's add another class. Say we updated this later and we say plus MS BG color theme primary, sure, right? So let's add a thing, right? So we added another class on here. If we were to run that again, we will also see, download it, fix the view requirements section. It will make suggestions for us in terms of what needs to go in our sample.json, right? So it's saying, hey, this class is being used, but we didn't find it in sample.json, please add it. And that's going to be important because the next part of this is it will round up, there's actually a roundup function that will round up all of those JSON files and map those to a CSV file. So you can do that as well. So this is the idea of, if you've got a series of JSON files and you want to map those to a CSV, you can, using an XML file that defines those rules. In this case, I've just got path queries here and, some functionality here that's required, but all of that pulls those into a giant CSV file for our samples. You can see an example of that here. So everything about our samples is here. And then the other part of Farrier is it will generate files. So using a CSV file, this generates all of those files. So you can see we've got this idea of templates and so on. So say the column samples, right? We've got the text here, but then we loop through that CSV file and we output the sample item, which is up here in a template. Again, I'm not trying to teach you how to use Farrier. The idea here is these tooling are available to you. The samples, the documentation will be updated on that. But all of that is to clean the samples repo and to get everything kind of good to go, right? So all samples have gone through this process now. I've cleaned every single one. And every single one of them should be then represented on our site. So this shouldn't be a problem. So that is not the right window. Do I have a window? There it is. All right, so if we go back to this guy, all right, so if you're in here and you think, you know what, this column sample doesn't, like it needs a better category or it's missing something, you can edit that sample.json directly and submit that as a PR. You could submit that as an issue and just flag that as saying, hey, I think this should be in this category, and we'll update it. But the idea here is in the past, we tried these listings, but nothing was automated. So it became very, very difficult as this repository has exploded to keep up with those listings. But because those listings are very, very important, everything is automated now, and that automation is made available to you should you want it. All right, so I know I'm right at time, so let's just show you this final thing. So a couple of links for you. So make sure you check out the new changes to the sample repo. I think they'll be very helpful to you. And if you're interested in that community tooling, it's just called Farrier. And there's a bunch of details in there, including all of those XML definition files are included in that repo, so you can see exactly how we're doing that. And there's something like 24 different functions. There's kind of a miniature language in there. So if you need to do some, transformation or manipulation in there, you can do all that as well. Okay, so check it out. I will try and get that documentation updated eventually on how to use that. In the meantime, if you're looking to use that on, say, maybe your own repository or maybe even your own solution, right? So I actually use Farrier in Flycon.io to generate those files. So that is the icons are not pulled from a database or anything like that. They are actually static code files, but are being generated from a CSV file using Farrier. So Farrier doesn't just do markdown files that we've got it here. It can do any kind of file type. So I've got those generating TypeScript files, for instance, off of CSV files. So these can be very, very helpful for you. Just ping me if you've got any questions about that until we get that documentation updated. But that's it. Sorry for the overall lack of horses, but maybe David will play that sound effect again.
Well, excellent. Thank you, Chris. You've been one very busy little bronco. See what I did there? Ooh. Excellent stuff. Really, really cool. Let's wrap it up here. Thank you to all of our presenters today, Clement, Pankaj, and Chris. Very cool stuff. Always love to see what the community brings. The recording will be available in 24 hours on the Microsoft 365 community YouTube channel. You can access it at aka.ms/m365/videos. Subscribe as well, and you'll be alerted as soon as those videos are published. You can follow us on Twitter at Microsoft 365 Dev or at M365 PnP. The next general dev call is 2 weeks from today, July 21st at 7 a.m. The next Viva Connection SharePoint Framework 1 week from today, July 14th at 7 a.m. You can access all of these calls at aka.ms/m365/calls. Thank you, everyone, for being and participating today. Great conversation, great demos. Have a wonderful rest of your week and a fantastic weekend.